property. To either 3 in the existing dwelling, or 2 in the dwelling and 1 in an accessory structure. And the town would only be able to require 1 additional parking space for all 3 units. They did clarify that this could only happen in areas served by municipal water and sewage services in a fully serviced area such as Tillsonburg. And the town would not be able to set a minimum floor area for units. So they could basically be almost any size. Supposed to be some regulations coming out through a additional regulation filed under the Planning Act. However, the province has not set out any details or released any draft of those proposed regulations. As well, the 3 units, the 3 additional units, they would be exempt from development charges. Currently, 1 additional unit is exempt from development charges. As well, they would be exempt from parkland dedication requirements, cash in lieu of parking requirements, and also exempt from site plan control requirements. There's significant changes to the parkland dedication requirements in the Planning Act. Currently, it's generally 5%, and the municipality gets to determine the location and design. The proposed changes would allow the applicant to provide the parks, and if the town did not like the location or the size, then the town would have to appeal or basically go to the Ontario Land Tribunal, who then would determine whether the parkland was sufficient or not, or satisfactory. So there's likely going to be some additional requirement to develop a park study to set out a good level of detail of what the town expects for park locations, functions, and size. As well, for any cash in lieu of parkland, starting in next year, the town will have to spend or allocate at least 60% of that money in the account in the beginning of each year. So we're still waiting for details on what allocate means, if that means earmark, or if you actually have to spend it. But that'll be a significant change to the parkland dedication requirements. There's major changes to the Conservation Authority Act. Currently, the town staff and county staff do rely on the Conservation Authority to provide guidance on natural heritage features. Under the proposed changes, the Conservation Authority would not be allowed to participate in the Planning Act process. So we would not be allowed to get comments from them. They would not be allowed to be circulated on the applications. And the town and county would not be able to enter into an agreement with the Conservation Authority to review applications for anything other than natural hazards. And the act also does change what is defined as a natural hazard. It's more restricted than what it currently is. As well, the town and county wouldn't be able to enter into any agreements with the conservation authorities to provide those services. So unfortunately, it's likely going to have to end up being, we'll have a greater reliance on peer reviews, which will come at increased cost to proponents, and generally it takes longer as well. As well, either that or we'll have to have some more technical expertise in-house to review matters such as, stormwater management, hydrology, water budgets, stormwater management design. As well, conservation authority permit would not be required where there's a planning application. So if an application for a subdivision was made in an area that was subject to the conservation authority regulation limit, they wouldn't have to get a permit from the conservation authority, and the conservation authority would not be allowed to participate in the process. So it's definitely a major change to the whole natural heritage system review. And there's likely to be a lot more work that town staff, county staff will have to do managing peer reviews, as well as securing outside expertise for some of these applications. There's also updates to the wetland boundary mapping and the delineation of wetlands. The province has also released a discussion paper about offsetting, where a proponent could choose to remove a natural heritage feature in return for providing compensation elsewhere. So we'll have to see what that. The current discussion paper doesn't have a great amount of detail, so we'll have to look into that. And there are some other conservation authorities I know in Credit Valley and Toronto region. They have a lot more robust offsetting policy, so that's something that we'll have to look into as well. There's major changes to the Development Charges Act. So additional residential units, the two of the three, they would all be exempt from development charges. Currently, only one is. There'd also be new exemptions for affordable residential units and attainable. They haven't exactly released what that means at this point. There's also nonprofit housing developments would be exempt from DCs and inclusionary zoning residential units. And the future regulations are supposed to be coming to prescribe what those items mean. There's a major change to the DC rates. They'd be phased in over 4 years. And the bylaws would be in effect for 10 years, which is a significant change from the current 5. There'd also be reduced DCs for rental housing. And beginning in 2023, the municipalities would have to allocate or spend 60% of the monies that are in the reserve fund. And background studies would not be eligible as a recoverable cost. So currently under most of the planning studies are recovered through development charges, such as the official plan review, any growth projections, vacant land study, any secondary plans. Those are generally funded through DCs. That will no longer be permitted. So those will have to be recovered through taxation or other reserves, along with any town studies such as development charge background studies, parks plans. Those would all have to be funded from other sources. So from a county perspective, there have to be a lot of changing in. We had a lot of studies for the next 2 or 3 years lined up. Water, wastewater master plan, water and wastewater rate study, development charges background study, and in 2024 we had a new official plan. So we'll have to outline and find different funding sources for those studies. As well, it's still unclear of whether the town or county could start or initiate a new DC bylaw before the 10 years is up, because 10 years can be a very long timeline to plan projects, especially when you have a significant growth and the significant new infrastructure needs. So we're waiting for clarification from the province on that. As well, housing services is no longer eligible cost to be recovered through development charges. There's also changes to Ontario Heritage Act, which makes it more difficult to list a property as being archaeologically significant. And as well, once a planning application is submitted, there is no ability to designate the property. The changes to the Ontario Land Tribunal, the proposed act would actually, I don't believe there's any existing appeals for Tillsonburg, but any existing appeals that are done by a third party that haven't been scheduled for a hearing are dismissed as of October 25th. And there's a new power to award costs, which typically hasn't been the case, as well as the ability to prioritize proceedings through a future regulation. And then the last aspect that we identified is changes to upper tier planning responsibilities. So legislation provides that the regional municipalities and the county of Simcoe would no longer have any upper tier planning function. And it could be that could be expanded to other upper tiers through a future regulation. Again, it's not clear exactly how that will speed up housing supply or make planning more expedient. But that's a change that is in the legislation. Planning staff are drafting comments to submit to the ERO postings. Again, there's the one that's due November 24th, and then the other one that's due in December. But we will also provide further reports as the legislation and the regulations become more crystallized. Thanks.
Well, thanks very much, Mr. Gilbert. Are there questions, comments from members of council? We'll start with Councillor Goazy, then Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Eric. Firstly, it's a good report, and your synopsis filled in a lot of gaps, and pretty much answered all my questions. I'd like to ask, is there actually anything positive in this bill at all that may have a positive effect?
The limiting third-party appeals in some cases can certainly speed up some development projects, especially when they're more related to NIMBYism or not in my backyard. That will speed it up, but the rest of the changes, I don't see them as actually speeding up any housing opportunities.
If I may continue through you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to clarify something. I've got a lot of concerns with regards to this bill. When I first heard it was coming out, it's going to affect taxpayers and municipalities. I'd like you to clarify about the 3 dwelling units on one property. Like, I know that there's, you had mentioned as well that there's going to be some more information coming on that, but are we looking at, like, say, your traditional single family subdivision where, anyone would just be able to come in and create a triplex type situation?
Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Goazy, essentially, yes, every single family dwelling could be a triplex. And the town could only require 1 additional parking space for the three units.
If I may continue, Mr. Mayor. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Eric. So on that, how do we ensure that, like, if that's not coming to council, like, I'm assuming it won't be, it's just going to be allowed. How do you ensure that there's enough water and sewer capacity? Like, I don't know. I have a vision in my head, and I guess it's not a great one coming from this bill, but how do you ensure that there's enough capacity there?
It's going to be a challenge, especially in older subdivisions when infrastructure isn't oversized or isn't large enough. They still will need building permits. They'll have to comply with the building code, although apparently there's some regulations or changes to that coming to facilitate these units. And we're still waiting for details of what part of the zoning applies. Like, do side yard setbacks still apply? Do front yard setbacks still apply? Can you just add on to the building wherever, or is it just you're allowed 3 units subject to the provisions of that zone? So we're waiting for those details, but it doesn't sound like there's much opportunity for this municipality to say no to them.
And I have one final question through you, Mr. Mayor. And then I guess there's the water and sewer concerns, but there's also road concerns. So even when new subdivisions are built, the roads are overcrowded with parking and they seem somewhat narrow. So I would think that this is going to be, present a problem. Like, I just think if you take a subdivision and triple the amount of population in one area, you're going to have a big problem.
Yes, certainly. I mean, the parking will be one of the first concerns you see when you,
Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor, please.
My concern, Mayor, through you, is not a question, but a comment. The Long Point Conservation Authority, which I'm a member of, has discussed this now in the past 2 meetings, and Conservation Ontario takes in 36 conservation authorities across Ontario. And they are certainly discussing Bill 23 as something that might not be that positive, because there could be eliminations of valuable wetlands, both for habitat, for fish habitat, wildlife habitat, bird fowl habitat, and of course for drinking water. And also from the heritage point of view, when somebody donates a piece of property to the Conservation Authority and then something gets changed around where maybe that property can be later sold is something that's really not, that wasn't the intent of the property to be transferred. So those are the comments that the Conservation Authority has troubles with. And I shouldn't say it has troubles with, but they're certainly approaching the province on Bill 23 to get some clarification on those issues.
Councilor Rosart, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Gilbert. Gilbert, I have a question. So the building department, from my understanding, won't have a lot of control over what they're doing as well?
So they'll still have to apply for a building permit and meet all the building code requirements. But zoning more or less will be overridden. So every property could have potentially up to 3 units as long as you were able to construct it as per the building code.
A follow-up, Mr. Mayor. So an area like on our side of town, that there's larger lots, they could build within those lots? Because we have lots that are 100 feet, 160 feet deep. Like what could happen within those lots?
So certainly within the existing house, they could subdivide it to create the 3 units. But and that's the details we're waiting from the province, is whether like, if you want to put an addition onto the house to facilitate an additional unit, it doesn't comply with the rear yard setback. Does that matter? We don't know yet. We're
Thank
getting
you.
mixed signals from the province hasn't said anything about what the regulations will be that facilitated or how they're going to override the zoning, whether it's just the use or they're going to override the provisions as well.
Councilor Luciani, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Gilbert. I wanted to get clarification on the parking for the additional residential units. Is it one additional or is it one per additional unit?
It's only one per all 3 units. So if they have, the town can only require 1 additional parking space, no matter how many units go in there.
Okay, I was just the way I was reading the report earlier, I thought it was like 1 per unit, but
No, it's
Okay.
one per
additional
units.
could cause definitely some concerns. And not only that, it could even cause concerns by law when we get into how many things we're allowed to have at different residences, et cetera, and trying to keep track of that would make it a bit of a problem. Good, thanks.
Further from members of council? Thanks to you and your team, Mr. Huff as well, Paul, Michaels, for the material information. Probably have a comment once the resolution's on the floor relative to advancing this beyond just receiving it as information. This is such a reaction to large urbanization and the impact it has on small rural communities across the province. This community over the last 5-year census period was the 3rd fastest growing municipality in the entire country. Somewhere along the line between the direction of council, the vision of our community strategic plan, the excellent work by the men and women in our building and engineering department and our leadership team, someone did something right relative to creating additional housing units, which supposedly this bill is speaking towards. So I am disappointed, and it's very similar tone and a tone that should be addressed back to the province in any response that this municipality takes, whether it's now or certainly prior to the end of November. That's just my recommendation, similar to the kind of amended resolution that was adopted at County Council just last week. Because beyond the material information, it's the messaging that's sent to the province, similar to Bill 108, when we had concerns on that, which was, again, large urbanization being brought in, and actually it was creating barriers to development in communities like ours. Are things perfect? No. Do we need to continue to work towards continuous improvement? Yes. But I think we're pretty well convinced that we do things well. We do things in great partnership with the county. I again share that I think if we ever looked further down the road relative to streamlining planning, and with all due respect to Mr. Gilbert and the team, is that draft plan of subdivision should not be at the upper level. That's redundancy. we come here, we spend how much time? There's actually organizations in the community that, are already prejudicing the Planning Act. And so right now, it's actually about, those are redundancies. That's not what this is addressing. So to the comment about, that Councillor, actually, all the comments made are all valid. And the best question may have been, what is in it for us? Because there's not a heck of a lot. That's not shooting the messenger, Mr. Gilbert. It's an excellent report. It's an excellent synopsis of Bill 23, and quite frankly, the foibles that it's going to introduce into a community that's advanced so far, let alone the financial impacts of this, the loss of potential revenue, the opportunity to build that next generation of, whether it's facilities or, emergency management and other things where we're looking to, potentially use our growth to actually benefit. Growth is paying for growth, but they should also be paying for the additional demands on those who have already invested in this community. Sorry, that sounds like that's not adding to you, but I will, when we get to the resolution, encourage that council sends something more than just receives as information. So most of the comments were made. I'm not going to be redundant to the concerns I shared at county council the other day, consistent on the one because of my continuous suggestion that there's redundancy in that. But ultimately, this does nothing. To build, 1.5 million homes or whatever. What's the target market for homes? Yeah.
1.5
This will not increase the production level of residential housing units in the town of Tillsonburg. And as far as the decision-making process here and in the future, I believe that in Oxford County, excuse me, that's where our the parking demands, as Councillor Luciani has indicated. Yeah, I can see that in downtown Toronto in a 45-story, residential complex where you've got subways and streetcars and everything else. That's what it was written for. They're missing, they're missing, this Southwestern Ontario small urban environment. And we've responded with educated responses before to the minister. And I would encourage that that's one appetite that we should, or someone in the future could consider, but comments only, and thanks, Mr. Gilbert. If there are no further questions for Mr. Gilbert, Councillor Rosart, you have a resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Council Gilbert, that council receive report CP 2022-407, More Homes Built Faster, Act 2022 as information, and ask staff to please respond within the defined time period in a manner similar to this report.
Questions to the resolution? And my only comment that I would make is that last, especially the reference to in a similar was the amendment made at county council that also suggested politeness, but with a strong tone of understanding and indicating the impacts that it. Is that your intention? Discussion to the resolution that's on the floor. Deputy Mayor, please.
Just clarification on the resolution. Would that be directly to the ministry, or would that be through the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, who, by the way, put out a memo to all municipalities saying, please feel free to contact us, or at least put the resolution through us, and we will forward it on behalf of all municipalities? Or could it be through both agencies for staff direction?
Well, just the response would actually go to the environmental registry, because that's who's asking in this extremely, sorry about that, extremely limited time frame. The notice of this bill was introduced on the 25th of October, and the deadline for comment, the primary deadline for comment, is the 24th of November. That's concerning, but it's the ERO. So if there's an understanding, a general consensus among council, or if you feel like it needs to be potentially amended, be the ERO, you may want to send the Minister Clark and AMO and the County of Oxford, since you're using their information. You need that direction. With consensus, you'd understand.
Yeah, through the chair, we will submit to the proper agency and we'll copy all the other parties.
Mover goods, okay. Okay, to that, any further questions? Okay, we'll call that question. All those in favor? Opposed, it's carried. Thank you. And thanks again, Mr. Gilbert. Thank council for your discussion there. Deputation on committee reports. There's a report. Don't believe, do we have a representation? Yes, welcome. Carrie's come and make a presentation relative to the Heritage Register listing report. And then there'll be a supporting resolution. So welcome. Nice to see you back in chamber.
Thank you. It's nice to be back. I don't know how to follow that up, especially when the Heritage Act is so partially affected in that new bill, but this is kind of a positive thing for our town. So we'll try to flip the mood here. This is something that our Cultural Heritage and Special Awards Committee has been working on for a couple of years, actually. Penny Messeltine, Councillor Messeltine, brought this to our attention that this is something that we needed to start working on. And as a committee, we split different ideas, came up with different areas in the town to add to our heritage listing. And everybody was sent home with their homework and came back. And as a committee and along with the museum, we have come up with a really good list of areas in our town as well as buildings in our town that we feel are a significant part of our history. Every community, you do have it in your agenda package as well. I'm not going to go through it all because you can read and just to save time, but every community has its own unique cultural and heritage, and Tillsonburg is so rich in heritage. We have lost so many buildings and so many places of significance in our past, whether it's due to construction or fire. We seem to be losing a lot to fire in this town. But it is important that we cherish the ones that we do have. Each city, town, township, or county has places, spaces, and stories that enrich it, enlighten it, and guide it in its growth and development. With the Municipal Register of Cultural Heritage Properties, the Ontario Heritage Act provides a framework for the conservation of properties that have cultural heritage value or interest to the community. The Municipal Register is the official list or record of cultural heritage properties. We have had it on our website in the past, and I don't believe it is on there now, or it is very hard to find if it is. I have a printout of it from months ago and I cannot find it now. The Municipal Heritage Register is a work in progress. Properties can be added or removed from the register by council in consultation with the Municipal Heritage Committee, which is our Cultural Heritage and Special Awards Committee here in town. Listing properties in the register recognizes properties of cultural heritage value in the community, promotes knowledge, and enhances an understanding of the community's heritage, such as a planning document, and provides interim protection for listed properties. We do have 14 designated properties in this town, which were provided to you. And we have some that are both designated and listed as cultural heritage properties. So there are multiple things it can be monuments, it can be parks, it can be a spiritual site, it can be a residence. There are quite a few things that can be added to this listing. We're not looking for a heritage designation at this time. What we've put together is a list for our heritage register to go towards our town's listing. So in that, we've included St. John's Anglican Church, the Rotary Clock Tower, Tillsonburg Memorial Arena, the former parsonage of the Methodist Church, Memorial Park, Coronation Park, O'Neill Stony Creek Kinsman Partissa Park, Gibson House, the Royal Canadian Legion, the anti-aircraft gun at the Legion, the Imperial Dam ruins, Lake Lisgar, and Mineral Springs Park. Included in that, we have put together, which was in your agenda package, a brief outline of the year that it would be listed, the name of the building, the address of it, the coordinates of it, and the cultural heritage value. And Penny has worked very hard, Councillor Sultan has worked very hard on our committee to put together a formal with pictures and description that everybody came together, gave their picture, gave their listing. And between Councillor Esseltine and Annandale House, it has been put together and ready just for council to put onto the website. So we are hoping for a resolution. And we do recommend that the Cultural Heritage and Special Awards Committee recommends to council that heritage listings be added to the town's heritage register to supplement the designated properties that are currently on the register. And that the heritage register of both designated and listed properties be accessible to the public and those interested in the community's history through the town's website and in print format. Any questions at all?
Thanks very much, Carrie. Questions from members of council? Councillor Govesi, sorry.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, to Carrie. I just have a comment. This was a really great report. It was very informative. We don't always have fun reading on council agendas, and this was certainly fun to learn about some of the history. So very well done.
That would be kudos to Councillor Esseltine. For sure.
Did you have any summary comments, Councillor Esseltine?
I would just say that the Culture, Heritage and Special Awards Committee, members on that committee drafted all the information for each piece of property that we have added to the, would like to add to the Culture Heritage thing. So sorry, my words are missing. But anyway, committee members have contributed significantly. And I thought that was really cool that they would take that time to research the piece of property and write the description and all of that. So it was very much a committee effort, and it was a positive thing. Yeah, thank you.
Further from members of council, this is to the presentation, and there will be a resolution placed on the floor for consideration by council. I think it's echoing the comments of others. It's excellent reading. And more important than that, it's a fabric of our community's history, which is actually, I was gonna say pretty cool, but behind every photo or every asset or every facility, there's far more than what you can get on a page. Like that's how great it is. And those stories will continue to be told. I'm referencing the arena here as just one example, but recognized mostly historically as a place to play hockey or figure skate. But one of the greatest filled by the rafters, packed was actually a qualifying game of the Tillsonburg Libbies in their advancement through to the Olympics one year. And those are the photos that are just part and parcel of the history of this community. So I thank you, your team, and others. I do have a question relative to the timestamp on that particular asset, because there is confirmation through council resolution that that particular asset is now the Kinsman Memorial Arena. Is that different? Like it's the Tillsonburg Memorial Arena here. Should it not be, and I say that with respect, the Kinsman Memorial Arena, because that's its current name?
That was discussed at our meeting, and everything that we have listed, we tried to list in its original name. And that is the only reason. And it is in the description that it was at one point in there. I'm not sure if it is now. And we can always add to them. We can always add pictures as well. Because I'm sure that once this is made public, that the public might come forth with some pictures, and as long as the town is in agreement, then we can always add pictures to the listing as well, just to make it a little more interesting.
Okay, I just offered that as an observation as much as anything. Final questions for the presenter? Thanks. Did you have any summary comments?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I just feel that it's been an awesome committee to be on. And I hope that going forward, they can continue, the committee will continue to look at our heritage designations and our heritage listings in town, because they are a treasure, especially in this town. We have so many of them, and this list is just the beginning. Thank you.
And we'll introduce the resolution, but just on that note. I had produced for me, it was a gift a number of years ago, and actually Laurel Beachy, local historian, made it, and it was given to me, but that's not the point. But it was, I think there's 5 or 6 historical sites on it. Would have been the post office, the library, the town hall, the Arlington Hotel, and like the train station. Only one of those. It's a wooden carving and it's like a landscaped. There's only one of those standing. That's the train station, which is now the station art. You take it to schools, or and the clock tower portion of the post office is, rotary clock tower is there, but it's kind of a reminder that, and this is actually points to that as well, is that we have to kind of maybe do a bit better job in protecting our history, our culture. Anyways, Councillor Govese, you had a resolution, please?
Thank you. I'm reading something slightly different than what's on your script. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rosehart that council receive the presentation from the Culture, Heritage and Special Awards Committee, and that Tillsonburg Council supports the recommended heritage listings to be added to the town's heritage register to supplement the designated properties that are currently on the register, and that the heritage register of both designated and listed properties be accessible to the public and those interested in the community's history through the town's website and in print format.
Thank you, Councillor Govese. Discussion? The resolution, and thank you, Councillor Govese, was moderately amended, I believe, because this was the committee's resolution to adopt. It needed one line in there for council to adopt. So that's, anyways, everything, if council's supportive of that. Questions, then we'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Resolution is carried. Thanks again, and thanks to your entire team. Informational items, they're all here before us, but we'll share. It's the Oxford County regulatory proposals under this Conservation Authorities Act. A summary of additional written submissions regarding the proposed federal electoral boundaries, future Oxford Federal Electric District redistribution, similar correspondence, and the Minister of Finance's funding allocations under the OMP, Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, for 2023, of which has also arrived on the Director of Finance's desk. Questions on any of those? We would ask for Deputy Mayor to have a resolution, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Luciani. The council receives the correspondence from Oxford County dated October 12th, 2022. The Federal Electoral Redistribution Commission dated October 26th, 2022. Future Oxford dated October 21, 2022, and Minister of Finance dated November 9, 2022, all as information.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Are there any questions or comments on any of those items? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That resolution is carried. We move to quarterly reports. These are third quarter reports for the year 2022. I'd move first to Councillor Esseltine to move the resolution for the third quarter consolidated financial report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parker, that council receives the report FIN 22-24 2022 third quarter consolidated financial report as information.
Thank you, Counselor Esseltine. Discussion? Call the question. All those in favor, opposed, resolution is carried. Now, the balance of the third quarter departmental reports. Counselor Parker, you have that more comprehensive resolution, please.
I do move by myself and seconded by Councillor Esseltine that council receives the 2022 third quarter reports 11.1 and 11.3 to 11.9 as information.
Thank you. Are there any discussion on any of those items? And if so, perhaps indicate a page number and seeing none. And just before calling the question, I thank the clerk for also, I believe, forwarding the information or at least the link to the agenda so that the third quarter information would be available to incoming members of council as well. So I appreciate that. We'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, resolution is carried. We move to departmental reports. We move to corporate services under item 12.2.1. This is a request for a bylaw amendment for the BIA regarding eligibility of membership. Councillor Rosart, you have that resolution, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Gavezi, that council receive report CS 2022-25 Business Improvement Area Bylaw Amendment, and that council received a request from the BIA to amend bylaw 2013 to add a clause to the eligibility criteria, and that a bylaw be brought forward to council's consideration to amend bylaw 2013, being a bylaw to designate a certain area as an improvement area and to establish a board of management. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rosart. Discussion from members of council? Seeing them, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, that resolution is carried. Staying with corporate services, there's a election report summary. Councillor Gavezi, you have that resolution, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Rosart, that council receives report CS 22-26 2022 municipal election as information.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion? Councillor Gavezi, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple comments. Firstly, it was disappointing to see that there still is an uptake from younger members of the community. And the second thing is, I did receive from some seniors that they're still very hesitant about the online voting. You know, it scares them. Are they ensured that their vote counts? And it's just a little bit of daunting. So I guess you would think that the online voting would entice younger people to vote, but it actually doesn't. And then there's just some apprehensiveness, you know, on behalf of, you know, senior residents. Just a comment.
Further questions, comments? We'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, resolution is carried. And the follow-up report regarding election accessibility to be received as information. Deputy Mayor, you have that resolution, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Luciani. The council receives the report CS 22-27, the 2022 municipal election accessibility report as information.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Council, you've had a chance to review the resolution or the report. Resolutions on the floor is under discussion. Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, resolution is carried. And the final corporate services report 22-33 is request relief from bylaw parking levy at 53 London Street. Councillor Luciani, you have that resolution.
Yeah, moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Barris that council receives report CS 22-33, request relief from bylaw as information, and that council authorizes relief from the parking levy for 53 London Street East.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Discussion? Call that question as well. All those. Oh, okay. All those in favor? Opposed, resolutions carried. We move through to economic development reports. This has to do with a community improvement plan update and a recommendation to advance material information to the province, and that would be Councillor Esseltine, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parker, that the community improvement plan is revised to reflect the town's housing goals outlined in the approved community strategic plan be approved in principle, and that the revised community improvement plan documents be forwarded to the Ontario Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing for review prior to bringing back for bylaw approval.
Discussion for members of council? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Resolution is carried. We move to item 12.3.2. This is a notification to the public regarding surplus land declaration for property known locally as 25 Maple Lane. Councillor Parker, you have that resolution, please.
I do, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Esseltine that the 25 Maple Lane property described as part lot 380, plan 500, part 1, plan 41R-9104, except part 1, plan 41R-10139 be declared surplus to the needs of the town of Tillsonburg in accordance with bylaw 2021-031, land disposition, including suitable notification to the public.
Thank you very much. Discussion for members of council. Councillor Esseltine, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had some comments from residents or some questions from residents, and I noticed that part of the motion here says about land disposition and disposition, including suitable notification to the public. So what is considered suitable notification to the public?
We'll look first to the author of the report, and if there's any subsequent information required, we'll look further. Mr. Panchow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to Councillor Esseltine. Suitable notification is defined within our land disposition bylaw, which is what's referenced in the motion. So there's a number of methods that town can use, namely our website typically, in the newspaper as well. And of course, I think posting a sign on the property, all of which are key elements. In addition to that, there can be other circulations as well. Council can designate additional notification, but at this point, this is what we've done.
Thank you. Okay, so suitable notification, okay, and you're talking about the methods, but I'm wondering about timelines, like, so notification to the public for this, the signs went up outside of Maple Lane Public School maybe 8 days ago. And then there was, they were in the newspaper maybe 5 days ago. Are those lengths of time considered suitable? Because people are not familiar with this project and the work that's been done to date. And so it comes out very sharp, like, and I'm just wondering, is there not a time requirement there?
Thank you for the question, through the mayor to Councillor Esseltine again. So my record, sorry, I have here on November 1st, that these notifications were published on the property and also on the town's website. So that would be 2 weeks, which is more or less, which is what our bylaw requires. You may recall that in the past, we actually provided notification after the council declared it surplus and then saw if there was any opposition to it. What we have been doing in consultation with the previous director of corporate services is actually moving that further out to give more time. So I think that we have complied with what the bylaw requires, the updated bylaw requires, and we're trying to provide as much notice as we can.
Have you had comments from people questioning about the notification?
Through the mayor again, no, I have not. I've had certainly some other comments about what the property could be used for, but it's been more about other proposed uses for the property.
Thank you. I think people are concerned that there hasn't been more notification about it and more discussion about it. And I know council has been dealing with this for a long time, but it's very new to the community. And I'm getting comments from people asking about the private ownership of the retirement home, the long-term care facility, and commenting about private ownership facilities seemingly don't service the community as well as publicly owned things. Now, so people haven't had a chance to hear this out or talk this out. And I think it looks bad on council that we haven't made more information available to the public, because this is a huge project, as you well know. So is there going to, okay, sorry, I'm kind of wandering here with this, but the other thing I wondered then about the suitable notification was with regard to information to the public, and it's very limited. And when will it be? So when will it be out there that people won't have a chance to ask questions or anything because it's a done deal? So I think I'm just disappointed that people in the community are concerned that they haven't been notified about this or know what's happening, and they have other ideas and things like that. So is there anything we can do in that regard to soften that with the community?
Those are some great questions and some comments there. I think that we have provided a fair bit. I mean, certainly there are no drawings in the notice. We did provide a lot of information in the notice, more than we normally do, I guess, in terms of usually the notices are, we're declaring this property surplus and we're accepting offers. We've said, you know, what we're planning to use the property for. But really this, I guess in some regards, it can be considered the start of the process as well, right? So if council declares this property surplus, then it is available. There is an opportunity to deal with a party on this, as you know, that will be coming forward to a future council meeting. Council can decide at that time whether or not they want to proceed any further. So I think that, and there'll be more information, I think, as part of that as well. So I think that this is a process that's been started on this property, and there has been a fair bit of information prepared, but we don't have anything more than really, we don't have conceptual drawings and elevations to show, for example, but we have stated what we're using the property for, so.
Just, and I know that there is an abundance of interest. We're dealing here tonight with a notification for surplus property, not a planning, not a, you know, that's what this is about. So, and you're bang on, and I'm going to pick up on it if you've got some summary comments, but I want for the public's benefit to understand what is on the agenda tonight, and it's the acquisition of property and the now recommendation to council to declare that particular piece of property surplus to the future needs of the corporation. That's what this is about.
Could I just ask one more question? So if someone was to come forward and say, this land is surplus and I have something that I would like to purchase this land and I would like to do this, what would we do if that happened?
To the mayor, to Councillor Esseltine, council could consider that offer as well. We've not proceeded with any other offer. There's no bylaw approval for any other agreement. So that is an open issue for council to deal with.
I guess that's where I see suitable notification isn't long enough, because there may be people interested in developing on that property, but the 2 weeks, if you've said that length of notification doesn't really allow realistically for someone to come forward with a proposal. So that's where the suitable notification falls down.
You good? Councillor Parker, please.
Through you, Mayor Molnar, and it's more a comment than it is a question. I would argue that this is the start of the process after there's already been agreements in principle. Nothing's been signed, you're correct. But we did this out of order. The communication to the public was not good enough. And it has created a bit of an issue now with the amount of people in the public that are finding out about it. I had numerous phone calls over the weekend, but I would really argue that this is the start of the process when we've already had discussions and it has already proceeded to the point that it has. Because we did something out of order, we can't just go and call this the start of the process. That's my comment. Thank you.
Further questions, the resolution that's on the floor, Councillor Govesi, please.
Thank you. I know we're dealing with the land surplus issue. It was in the paper and I went back and reread it today, so I do have a comment because in the paper, it did attach the land surplus, declaring it surplus and selling it to people care. It did say that in the newspaper. It is not in this report, but it was in the public domain in the newspaper. So that's where there's some concerns. I mean, this land, I mean, realistically, it's committed. There's committed funding to the town through an entity that's attached to land. So, and like I said, it was in the newspaper. It's not in this report. So this report doesn't completely align with the information that went out in the public news. It's just a comment.
Further questions or comments? The one thing I would do with respect is I would caution anyone to put full and utmost credibility in something any of us may read in a newspaper. I didn't see it. I'm not questioning that it was there. I'm not the town page. Oh, well, then we absorb and accept responsibility. Oh, I thought you said the news. Okay. Oh, as part of the notification. Then we have some answering to do. Anything further? Okay, so to the report and to Councillor Parker's actually sharing a lot of Councillor Esselstine's, I'm gonna hold myself to the same, that this is a process of declaring surplus. But we've had this, actually the 7 sitting members here were responsible for the amendment to the surplus and disposition of property bylaw. So there's be no surprises relative to that. We recognize as well that there was a period of time for kind of a decent period of time that overlapped this, where because of a pending election, council was in a lame duck position, and there were certain things that could not be done relative to financial and bylaw things, other than if they were granted the opportunity through the delegation bylaw. So council, this is really, actually it is, this is the first time since in advance of the 24th or whatever August that we would have had the opportunity to actually deliberate on this in a public forum and give direction on it. Relative to the status of council. Not just one question, it's kind of building on Councillor Esselstine and my expectations as well. And I won't, there was a suitable notification, and yet publishing a notice in the Tillsonburg News to be published in the November 9th and the 16th updates. Oh, what's the date today? The 14th. So what value, I guess I would ask, and positively, what value is a notification in the Tillsonburg News on the 16th, which I believe would be the 17th, regarding a decision to be made on the 14th?
The notice that was published, including on our website and posted on the property, provided from, I guess, the data was posted through to the actual 21st, which is the next council meeting as well, to provide any comments. So we're continuing to provide notice in the paper past this date as well, for the public to provide more time for the public to provide comments if they have any.
Okay. That's what that, continued to. So that's what it comes to me. And I want to recognize, but I'm not going to step beyond the provisions that our procedural bylaw provides for, unless it was, supported and encouraged by, all, and I mean all of council. There are members of the community here that had legitimate questions and concerns. So what I really like to look to is in that interim period between now, the fact that there's been a commitment that marketing is being still done on the 16th, which is actually the 17th, and any eventual bylaw, could the clerk or a representative of the clerk's department speak to the community, including the residents in attendance tonight, how best they can come and ask questions and make comments and get clarification on their, what may be concerns or, on any matter, and including this. Because, should be about public engagement. Councillor Parker's indicated, Councillor Esseltine's indicated, but we're also, this is our policy. And we were in a conundrum, quite frankly, relative to being in a writ period where we couldn't make certain decisions. Now we are here and have the capacity to do that. That's why this is on this agenda as a item of surplus. So can we share, and then maybe before either at or German, that the ladies can be satisfied on how best they can approach council, either on the, would that be the 21st or?
Yeah. So according to the town's procedural bylaw, any matter that's before council, a member of the public can request to speak to that matter before noon on the day of the council meeting or prior to the council date. You can also request to be a delegate and speak to any matter that's before council. So up until today at noon, if you contact the clerk's office, then you can be added as a delegate to speak to any matter on the agenda.
Okay. I'm stepping beyond the response. I hear you, but I'm challenged by the fact that I've got to run the meeting as we discussed based on the parameters that I've been provided by our procedural. I'm not trying to be technical. Okay, so we understand each other. No, we understand each other. Please. Now, do we know what time of day the phone call would have been made? So the action tonight would be what? Mr. Panchow, just so that we all be declared surplus. That's all this is. There's nothing in here about what we're doing with it. The corporation's intent in this particular document. I need some assurance. Okay. We've declared property surplus before in the corporations. Maybe there's even 2 bylaws on here tonight from earlier properties, like road allowances and other things. And we follow the process. This is a little more significant property. But the actual there's still opportunity for public engagement relative to the use or even the next phase of the disposition. Am I correct in that? Please. Yeah. Okay. Would you hear me? You don't have to. Okay. The best that I would do, unless there's some direction or request from alternative members of council, would be that either the clerk or the assistant deputy or acting deputy clerk visit and set up an opportunity to get the information you're looking for, and to also encourage that if it's in your interest that you come before the next or a future council meeting, if that's the domain that you'd like to. As I look around to council, Councillor Guizy.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the clerk, is there anything that we as council could put forth to allow the citizens to be heard this evening since they're here?
Well, that's what I asked. We just waive our procedural bylaw. I would hope I could do it through consensus, but I also spoke to the lady earlier, and it's not delegation gets 15 minutes. I think council, if they provided, some amount of time, you're not unfortunately, we've had a tough time getting started tonight, and I'm trying to my best to provide you with every opportunity to come and make a responsible presentation. And I'd kind of at some point like to at least that to be respected. So with a concurrence of members of council, that we would invite the danger, and I would encourage this, but I'm also going to suggest it's a no one else is here that may have similar. So just recognize that the opportunity is being made because and this is a compliment, showed the initiative to be here. So if I see no opposition, I would invite you to come forward to ask your questions. Please come forward and give your name and address, and you're invited to now participate in the open session of council. But please recognize this is not a quote unquote public meeting. So please welcome.
Thank you. Get this. I did want to add that I did not come prepared with any formal speech. My name is Angela Bamford. I'm currently residing in the seniors residence at 31 Maple Lane, along with my associates that are here tonight. The seniors in the building, there has been a lot of concern recently regarding what has been happening. Some of it has been addressed tonight with the information available. The length of time for the information to be absorbed by the seniors, since 90% of them don't have access to the website, they don't have access to the internet. A lot of them have home care help. A lot of the information about what is going on in town council is not available to the people that are going to be affected by the decisions made tonight. So the decision to make the land surplus, which is the request that you have put in as council, would be before the chance for any of the residents to actually ask questions about what the ramifications are going to be regarding this acquisition or disposition of the land. Some of the questions that we had was that the notification was in the newspaper in January, stating that the town of Tillsonburg was going to develop the property in conjunction with People Care Incorporated, not as People Care Incorporated being a separate development corporation involved with that, but that the town of Tillsonburg was going to be the one overseeing this. And in the newspaper on Thursday, it referred to the acquisition of the property of the Maple Lane School as having taken place in August this year of 2022, when the residents of and I think I speak for some of the residents, we were all informed a long time ago that the town had acquired the property and that the units were going to be developed by the town, but in conjunction with help from somewhere else. Again, it has to go with information available to the tenants. Some of the questions that we're looking at, that have been looked at, is the fact that the newspaper article, which most of the tenants saw, came out in the newspaper on Thursday. Offices were closed on Friday for Remembrance Day. By Monday, enough people hadn't absorbed any information in time to call. I personally did call town offices, but my calls weren't returned. I called again at 4:30, which was late, but I had other things as well during the day. Calls weren't returned. If the land is declared surplus tonight, then anybody that has objections to the use of it, or questions about how the acquisition took place, when the initial information was that the town of Tillsonburg, in conjunction with the company, was going to be developing it for healthcare use and for long-term use for long-term care homes for seniors. Again, information is not available to the seniors because 90% don't have the internet and website to look this up. They don't have access to the council. A lot of them can't get out of the building.
So some of the changes that we wanted, that people are asking is how much of the land around is involved, because the Livingston Centre is also on the back end of the property. Maple Lane is right next, the 31 Maple Lane is next to this property. Does this mean that if the new building is going to be developed, is that going to affect the tenants that are currently living in 31 Maple Lane? They want to know what's happening.
Okay, can I just ask you one question?
Yes, sir.
And this won't count against your time.
Yes, sir.
Are you concerned, and these may be rhetorical questions, are you concerned that the municipality would have acquired an asset from a third party?
That in my.
No, it's like the town bought an asset and now is disposing of that asset, irregardless of what it's being used for, because any use of that, whether it's multi-residential,
Yes.
single family housing, anything that goes on that property will have a far greater public meeting than this about just disposing of
Yes.
potentially. So
Yeah, yes, it has to do with that, because the information originally was the town of Tillsonburg was owning the land in doing and in developing it in conjunction with.
and where was that information?
That information was through the media on January 13th and 14th of 2022. And again, the media,
But in which capacity in the media?
it
'Cause
was,
I don't want to be corrected again.
I actually have I bookmarked it on my.
The newspaper
it
or
was
the
through the-
town's
It was.
paid for?
As far as, it was a report in the newspaper under columnar report with your picture on it stating that in conjunction with the, in conjunction with the, I forgot the name, People Care Inc., that the land was going to be developed. There were 160 units proposed for the land for future nursing care, which is very hard to find in this area. And
Thank you.
so yes, I am personally questioning why the news is different and why nobody in the area has heard of anything until now. And the limitation provided by the newspaper meant that nobody could find anything out.
Oh,
So,
okay,
and we particularly, I want to find out personally whether the land involved includes the land that 31 Maple Lane is on. It's adjacent to there. How
the
is
answer to
it-
that is no.
Okay, how is the?
31 Maple Lane, and I believe Councillor Parker, as one member of the Tillsonburg Nonprofit Housing Corporation, that's owned by a separate limited corporation that operates currently owns two facilities, manages a third. It is in the process of building. Oh,
There's
three,
three-
sorry,
Yeah,
sorry,
there's-
residents of Saunders Street.
Yeah.
It took so long because of people not wanting them on Saunders Street. So thank you, Councillor. So yes, 3 plus 1 management plus 1 construction on Victoria.
So there are things in process, and those are made aware that the tenants in the current building are aware of that's going on, but there are implications within management. A lot of the issues I think are due to communication issues. There are no longer representations of the two buildings within the council. And until October, there were 2 members of the building on Maple Lane, 2 members of the building on Queen Street that were involved with town council and able to report on any issues that the tenants had concerns about when they reported to the councillor involved in town council. As of October, we've been informed that there are no longer representatives from either of the building to bring forward the concerns of the tenants, some of whom can't come and say this for themselves.
Just here, I'm eating your time, which is already getting short, but I think we need to get it accurate. We can't just be saying things. It's my estimation and my participation through a number of years on Nonprofit Housing Corporation's board is that there are 2 representatives from each building, at least the primary 53 Queen and 31 Maple, and their representation from council. It actually comes up, doesn't go down. Councillor Parker.
Yeah, Mayor Molnar, I'd like to clarify that. So for the remainder of the year, there is still representation from the tenants on the board. However, the provincial government is reviewing the nonprofit board structures right now, and there is the possibility of changes. They are not officially off of the board or anything like that as of yet, but there are potential changes that are coming down from the provincial government. So I can assure you that your tenants were at the last Tillsonburg Nonprofit Housing Board meeting, because I was there in attendance. And you're right, this was not spoke about at that meeting because we're just declaring the land surplus right now. So with that being said, there wasn't anything to report to have the conversation with them at that point, because we haven't went down the process of declaring the land surplus to even put it up for sale yet. And that's where we're at. So yes, those tenants are there. The management team is there. The board is there. As of right now, the changes haven't came down from the provincial government, but there will be changes to nonprofit housing boards moving forward.
Okay, I do extend my apologies because there's a lot of misinformation and there's tenants in the building. We're sometimes not brought up to date on what is available and what is not available to us.
So we'll ensure that the clerk, and I'm going to ask Laura, who's there, and I know you mentioned to me earlier that you reached out, and I want to thank you for appropriately reaching out.
Thank you.
I think as members of council, and we have to get back to council deliberating on the resolution, that I think every indication is that this is a step along the way,
Mhm.
and that this declaration potentially, without prejudicing council's decision, has no means of what may or may not appear there sometime in the future. They are a distinctly different part of a public process.
Yes.
So,
it is.
and if you even ask tonight to the acting deputy clerk, one of the nice things about public engagement is that she'll take your name, address, and contact information. And then if any item regarding this particular issue comes up, she or a representative of that department will be in a position to make sure you know about it, that you don't have to continue to check every week. Does that sound all right?
That sounds
Okay.
good. So I appreciate that and I appreciate your time. I
No.
think the biggest concern was the fact that it was going to be declared surplus before anybody had a chance to discuss it.
Okay.
I think that was the biggest issue and the information.
And I think your concerns are shared with others, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for
Yeah.
allowing me to.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from members of council or resolution? Need the resolution reread?
Do you need?
Everyone need the
I can
resolution
reread it.
reread. It's in front of us. Okay, we're prepared to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, resolution is carried. A final economic development advisory report regarding project consultant, Councillor Rosehart, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Council Gilvezi, that the Economic Development Advisory Committee recommendation for the town to consider project management options for development of phase 2 of the Van Norman Innovation Park be referred to 2023 budget deliberations for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion? We'll call that question. All those in favor? Opposed, resolution is carried. We move through finance, fire and emergency services into operations and development regarding a both the termination and a new lease agreement for a hangar at the Tillsonburg Regional Airport. Councillor Gilvezi, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Rosehart, that council receives report OPD 22-45 hangar land lease taxiway CL lot number 9, and let a bylaw to execute the agreement to terminate the lease with Danny Richard for taxiway C1 lot 9, to execute the hangar lease agreement for taxiway C1 lot 9 with Mark Ness, repeal bylaw 3883 be brought forward to council for consideration.
Thanks very much, Councillor Gilvezi. Discussion? Councillor Gilvezi, please.
Yes, I have a concern with regards to the hangar leases. So I can't remember, but this is for a number of years. So we're doing these long-term leases. They don't have any built-in rates of inflation. And I think that's something that seriously needs to be looked at. moving forward. I mean, I think already there's a commitment for this one to go through, but maybe council should be considering moving forward that any hangar lease come forward, that those indexes are built in. Because we can have a lease for 20 years that doesn't have a built-in index for increase.
Further questions? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, resolution is carried. Recreation, Culture and Parks, one resolution regarding Southridge Playground replacement. Deputy Mayor, you have that resolution, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Luciani. The council receives the staff report, Recreation and Culture and Parks 22-22. So South Ridge Playground replacement is information. And that the funds from capital project number 717, which was the OPP security replacement access system, be reallocated to cover emergency replacement of the playground at South Ridge Park.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Discussion from members of council, please. We'll start with Councillor Parker, then move to Councillor Esseltine, please.
Through you, Mayor Molnar, to Julie. Just high level, I assume that the reallocation of this money, we'll see that back in the 2023 budget for the 55,000.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Parker. Actually, this project that was in the 22 capital budget was approved. The actual follow through with the OPP, we were notified at the end of the summer. They were no longer requiring this. The CBRE leaseholders were no longer requiring the town to cover the cost to do the security system. So that would be absorbed as surplus at the end of the year. So I was just asking for reallocation.
Councillor Esseltine, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a very quick question. Will this installation wait until the spring or will it be done soon? I know kids play year round, so thank you.
They climb on that.
Thank you through you, Mayor, to Councillor Esseltine. We are hopeful. I will have a better idea when I'm able to confirm this project, what the timeline will be for supply and delivery.
Further. Just confirming, is this asset, the actual equipment to be replaced on municipal property? And for exclusive, not exclusive, but no restriction to municipal use at any time? Okay. Like it doesn't have a segregated time period where the Southridge has access. Okay, that's just concerned about the level that Thames Valley historically contributes to municipal assets. That's just a summary comment. Councillor Gavesi, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, to Julie. I have one quick question. Is this replacing like the unit that's being replaced? Would this be like an as-like or similar?
Correct. We sent pictures of the existing equipment to the three companies, sorry, that were quoting. So it is similar. It's a little bit bigger and we have more accessibility in this unit. We did find out in my report, we were guesstimating the age of this unit. No one on staff seemed to know, but it was confirmed that it is 30 years old. We had a staff meeting and our museum curator was able to confirm that. So a 30-year-old playground is usually unheard of in a municipality. So it's good that it's been well maintained and kept that long. But there's no really replacements that are similar to what was installed 30 years ago, but I think we got a really good deal on this one.
Thank you.
Anything further? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That resolution's carried. Consideration of committee minutes. Councillor Luciani, summary minutes from various advisory committees received as information, please.
Yeah, moved by myself and second by Deputy Mayor Barris that council receives the following advisory committee's minutes as information. Recreation and Sports Advisory Committee minutes dated October 5th, 2022. Airport Advisory Committee minutes dated September 22nd, 2022. Dog Park Advisory Committee minutes dated October 18th, 2022. Economic Development Advisory Committee minutes dated October 11th, 2022. Cultural, Heritage and Special Awards Advisory Committee minutes dated October 19th, 2022.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion. Questions on any of those items? Thank again to all the advisory committees and encourage either existing members or those throughout the community that when the request for new appointments goes out, encourage members of the community to consider those opportunities. So Councillor Rosehart, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Julie. Is there any time that we close the dog park down at all for the staff to have time to go in and do the job and repair whatever needs to be done there?
Thank you through the mayor to Councillor Rosehart. We have in the past, since I've been here, closed it down once that I'm aware of. And that work was actually twice, sorry, my apologies, for the pavilion. And then we did on Tree Planting Day, National Tree Planting Day. We closed down the park and put up notice for those 2 times. Other than that, we do not close the park during maintenance, regular maintenance.
Mayor?
Please.
Through you to the director. So the park was designated to be open from morning till dark. So now do we lock the gates or are the gates open 24/7 in the park?
My understanding is the gates are not locked.
Thank you.
Further? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, resolution is carried. LPRCA, excuse me, Long Point Regional Conservation Authority. Councillor Esseltine, you have that resolution to receive their minutes as information, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parker, that council receives the Long Point Region Conservation Authority minutes dated September 7th and October 5th, 2022 as information.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion? Deputy, did you have any, you've made your comments earlier, which are,
I made my comments
Yeah,
earlier.
okay.
Thank you.
all those in favor? Opposed, resolution is carried. Any motions? I believe there's information that's appeared here as clerk confirming that they were received prior to the end of the day, Tuesday. Meeting date change. Councillor Parker, do you have a resolution, please?
I do. Move by myself, seconded by Councillor Esseltine, that council authorizes cancellation of the November 28th, 2022 council meeting and reschedules the meeting to be held at 6 p.m. on November 21st, 2022.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No, kidding. Thank you. Amendment to the ECA transfer station automatic gate. Councillor Govesi, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parker. That council requests staff to seek an amendment to ECA to allow the automatic gate to open 7 days per week at the yard waste portion of the transfer station to allow citizens access to the yard waste on Sundays. May I speak to this?
Please.
There's no financial implications to this. Best practices, most other places are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, but it's not so simple as just asking staff to amend the hours because there's an agreement. Staff has to seek an amendment to the agreement, which defines the operating hours of the yard waste portion of the transfer station. Does everyone understand?
Are there questions from members of council to the resolution? Yeah, well, then I have a couple. What's the immediacy of this? Especially when you're needing to get the support of a third-party provincial agency. So what's the immediacy that this is on tonight's agenda as opposed to receiving a notice of motion and then coming at a future meeting?
I don't think that I don't think the motion identifies that it immediately needs to be done, but I think that I also did follow proper procedure by sending the motion in that was placed on the public agenda.
The immediacy is what I asked, and you commented. I appreciate that. I'm just so to, I guess. Seeking amendment is one thing. operationally, if you get support, do you then have to have it open?
Through to the mayor, in dealing with past ECA amendments to transfer stations, it would require renegotiation of the agreement. If it's determined to be minor in nature, we may be able to circumvent the fee structure at the Ministry of Environment. In terms of the staffing complement that would be required, I would suggest that it's on an automatic timer as from what I'm aware. So that would still be in place. So there would be a parameter of scale identified to the ministry to see where we would be able to thread the needle in allowing the seventh day of operations. So we can certainly return with a revised ECA amendment or agreement once we have that.
No, but I'm talking about the text of the resolution. Seek an amendment. So if the amendment as sought was approved, are you then at a 7-day delivery in advance of any consultation with the neighbors who aren't happy with the 6 or 5-day, like on Jean Ferry Court, as an example? So I mean, we can't have this both ways. If, you know, I guess I learned about this when someone called me and they saw it on Facebook. So I'm just trying to understand the process.
My apologies. From what I understand from your clarification through to the mayor, this would in fact be that we would have to operate as a 7-day arrangement because it would be with the ministry that we would change the parameters. So public consultation or notification, depending on the scale and what they would believe would be reasonable, would also have to be considered.
Okay, I'm not suggesting that it's, you know, a large encumbrance. I'm just commenting from past experiences regarding the ministry and the process that even the smallest things could be, you know, an issue. Okay, those are just comments. Any questions, further questions? We'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, resolutions carried. This next item is a motion to reconsider that was passed on the 19th of April 2022. So at least I'm being transparent. If I had I've considered the resolution and for a notice to reconsider to be out of order because it's over 6 months. And that's the information that I had available to me. But I want to respect the clerk's education on the amendment to Robert's Rules of Order. There's no time limit in our procedural bylaw, but every other, you know, edification of a reconsideration has to do with the timeline. It's to deal with, oh, I made a rush decision, or we made a rush decision, or we have new information available within a reasonable time frame. That's what a motion to reconsider is. But I'm not, you know, this is kind of last day. That's my interpretation. And also there's a rationale that the resolution is actually out of order because items inside have already taken place. I don't know how you undo certain things that have taken place, but with council's concurrence, which there's, I just wanted to, for my own, you know, experience and at least reference that. To Councillor Rosehart, you have a resolution. You can speak to it, but you'll introduce a piece of information to the motion to reconsider, if that's your choice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate that. Moved by myself and second by Councillor Parker, that the resolution of 2022-144 passed at the April 19, 2022 council meeting as set out below by reconsideration. Resolution 2022-144. Moved by Councillor Essertine, second by Councillor.
No.
Oh,
Don't need
sorry.
all that.
Okay.
Below be reconsidered.
That
The resolution that's potentially on the floor is that resolution 2022-144 passed at the April 19th, 2022 council meeting as set out below. That's fine. Be reconsidered.
that plans be put in place.
Oh,
Oh, that's all I read?
Don't need that. That's the resolution.
Oh,
So
okay.
now I need you to tell me, council, and the community why.
Council Parker will comment on that. Thank you.
It's your resolution. I'm gonna ask you to give me the reason. Someone voted in favor, so that's fine. Why it's important that this is being reconsidered. That is our procedural bylaw. Any reconsideration needs a reason. New information.
So can the seconder not comment on that, Mr. Mayor?
I'm not gonna get, technical. Have you got information that first, you say it and then we'll attribute it to the mover?
I do, and we've had discussions about it. So we're requesting the council allow for reconsideration of this resolution for housekeeping reasons. It's actually in contradiction of the procedural bylaw when it comes to virtual meetings. It states due to distance and illness, where the actual procedural bylaw reads that it's during a pandemic. The bylaw was never updated and it was never brought back to council. By allowing this to be reconsidered, it would allow the new council to start fresh with an opportunity, so there's no contradiction between past resolutions and the current procedural bylaw. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Rosart, did you have, I consider that as a chair, reasonable information as to any rationale that it's, trying to be flexible here. Councillor Rosart, it's your resolution. Did you have any other information? Do you have anything to contribute to the resolution?
Well, everything that Councilor Parker has said is that we discussed and he was better to present it. Thank you.
You've discussed.
Yes. As a
Okay. That we did already discussing at council chambers. Councillor Luciani, then Councillor Esseltine. We are talking and debating the motion to reconsider. We're not talking about the resolution that was moved and passed on the 19th of April as moved by Councillor Esseltine. This is moved by Councillor Rosart, second by Councillor Parker to reconsider. That's what we're debating now. And thanks, Councillor Parker.
Through Mr. Mayor to, I guess, Councillor Parker, or I guess to both Councillor Parker and to Councillor Rosart. I'm just trying to figure out what are we going to gain doing this tonight as opposed to waiting into the next term of council, which in reality is the one that it would affect. So my question would be, as the mayor has already alluded, a lot of this has already been dealt with. When this came up on the 19th, I did not support this. I was in the negative as far as supporting it, but that was only due to timing. There was some good portions on this that I did accept and that I do support, and those were added in at the time. The key one being the hybrid option, which I do not want to see lost, due to the fact that it affects, number one, it affects not only council members, but I think it affects our committees as well. I don't think that moving it forward now is going to make any difference as to what's going to happen to the new committees, as opposed to just waiting to the next council, possibly updating our procedural bylaw, making sure it's in place, and then dealing with this and pulling it.
Was that a question or a comment? Because
That was a comment, and I guess my question is then why would we not let this just
okay,
wait?
through the chair to either Councillor Rosart or Councillor Parker.
Through you, Mayor Molnar. The reason that it was brought forward now as a motion to reconsider is you can't have a motion to reconsider with the new council. So to bring it forward now, it's the only opportunity at this council to bring it forward.
Just for clarification, yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, but back when the last time it was done within a 6 month time period. And two of those individuals are sitting here and it had to deal with sidewalks on Maple Lane. If the deputy mayor would remember. So just for clarification.
Just a question then. So we've heard that it's a housekeeping thing to clean up and because the motion contradicts the procedural bylaws. So I'm just wondering, when the motion was made and passed, would that have not have superseded the procedural bylaw? Like, why would we make that motion that was counter to the procedural bylaw and not have it take precedence over the procedural bylaw? What, I'm just wondering how that works.
Through the chair. So Councillor Stein, you are right. I would argue that that resolution, because it was done after the procedural bylaw, is the, you know, I'll use the word trumps the procedural bylaw right now. Bylaws obviously are stronger than resolutions, but since that was the last direction of council, that's the direction that everyone's following. So in due course, it would be prudent then perhaps to update the procedural bylaw, but right now that resolution stands.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Mr. Mayor, as you started off by saying that we're dealing right now with a motion to reconsider. I would think that we would be better served if we would consider this as a notice of motion. And reason for that being that it would allow us to, or allow our staff to put together information that might affect the procedural bylaw in its entirety because of all the information that has transpired since that time, acceptance of hybrid meetings and so on and so forth. I've had some information that I would like to bring forward both ways. I see both sides of it, but I don't believe this is the time or the place to do it. So if we put together a notice of motion, or if you would accept a notice of motion, that would give us an opportunity to follow the right procedure.
Any further questions or comments? And it is with respect, because I didn't support this, and it hurt me to not support Councillor Esseltine at the time, and I'll recall that. And I also spoke to the fact that there was a lot of moving parts in this resolution. And I could concur that another way of saying that may be housekeeping. Irrespective of my concern that something's could have been a housekeeping item in May, June, July, August, September, and October. But all of a sudden, the last meeting of this mandate, it's become an issue. I don't understand that. But that's not negative, because I think in my discussions today about trying to ensure that the experience and the messaging I was able to provide council with, which I'm still of the position of, the acting clerk also highlighted some other concerns and issues that CAO has just indicated as well. It's always the problem with resolutions. That's all staff has. That's all they get. They can sit here twice a month, 3 hours or more. All they have to do or to work with is the text on a page moved by, seconded by, and carried. Sometimes there's it's not what I meant, but that's what's on the paper. So with all due respect, that's probably in large part why I didn't support that, 7 months ago. But I could, every opportunity to encourage a review and an updating, I think individually should start with the review of the procedural bylaw. Without any criticism, back that 6 months ago, the next meeting of council, that amendment should have been coming forth as an amendment to the current already updated procedural bylaw that provided for the aspect of electronic meetings, which came from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. That's where that started relative to the onset of COVID. So listen, I'm marching off fine, but I don't think this is the right way for a housekeeping to be dealt with. I think you've got every opportunity to ensure moving forward that you come with a clean and progressive approach. I won't be supporting the motion to reconsider at this point, but it's with certainly no lack of respect. It's just, I think the clerk has educated me that there are far easier ways on how to ensure the messaging, and that the council, duly elected council has the opportunity to contribute to that. And I'm fine. We're like that's all. Yeah, and then go ahead.
I'll direct my question to the clerk through you, if I may. Would a motion to defer, if carried, give staff an opportunity to carry through this report in the proper format?
The only thing you can do at this point is deal with the motion to reconsider. You can't amend that motion in any way, shape, or form. So the motion that's on the floor is to reconsider. That's all you can do at this point.
So there's no option here for a motion to defer.
The motion, no, you can only deal with the motion that's currently on the floor. When it's a motion to reconsider, that's all you can do is reconsider. You cannot amend the motion that's on the floor.
The only option, you can't defer. That's not your, like, you can withdraw. And the fact that the majority of members, the representative, there are still no, 4. So 1, 2, 3 members of the next council will have voted in favor of the resolution and have the capacity to reintroduce, if that's what you, but I rest right now the fact that it's properly, according to the clerk, on the floor as a motion to reconsider. Unless there's any final questions, I'm prepared to call that question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's defeated. There are no additional resolutions.
I do have a notice of motion, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I apologize. And I always,
it's not a-
no, that's what I'll. Are there any other notices of motion to be appropriately brought forward at a future meeting of council? Thank you,
Yes.
Councilor Parker.
The council directs staff to bring back a report in regards to virtual meetings in the current procedural bylaw, and that staff compare to other neighboring municipalities when it comes to extended time away and attending meetings virtually.
Thank you. And any further notice of motions as to be introduced by members of council for consideration at a future meeting? Seeing none. Bylaws, Deputy Mayor, you have those, please.
I do. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Luciani, that bylaw 2022 -068, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2013, being a bylaw to designate a certain area as an improvement area and to establish a board of management. Bylaw 2022 -075, a bylaw to close and deem surplus part of an alley between Nelson Street and Charles Street, and bylaw 2022 -076, a bylaw to close and deem surplus part of an alley between 6 and 9 John Street, be read for a first, second, third, and final reading at the mayor and the clerk, be and are hereby authorized to sign the same and place the corporate seal thereonto.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Council, do you have questions on any of those bylaws that are introduced for first, second, and final reading? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, resolutions carried. Confirmation bylaw, Councillor Parker, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Esseltine, that bylaw 2022 -074 to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on Monday, November 14th, 2022 be read for a first, second, third, and final reading, and that the mayor and the clerk be and are hereby authorized to same and place the corporate seal thereunto.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Resolution is carried. Any items to share with the general public at this point? We'll just go around the horn. Start with Councillor Parker, please.
Yeah, just a reminder that this Saturday at 2 p.m. will be the Santa Claus Parade in the downtown. Please come out and enjoy the floats. And if you have a float that you want to put in, please contact Chris Kirsten and the parade committee. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Anything further? Anything on this side? Councillor Kabezi, please.
The Salvation Army Kettle Campaign will kick off this week as well on Thursday, November the 17th at 2 p.m. at the Town Mall. And I would just certainly like to say thank you to Councillor Esseltine for her 8 years of service and to Mayor Molnar for 21 years. His passion and dedication to the community should not be overlooked, and thank you very much.
Anything further from members of council? Senior leadership? Did you anyone? Splash pads closed for the year. Excuse me, that was Mr. Pratt, did you have comment, or I'd see something on the agenda here?
I do, Mr. Mayor, through yourself. So as we all know, the town celebrated Tillsonburg's 150 years this year. As a result, we would like to provide Tillsonburg's 150 leaf to all of the 2018-2022 council. So Laura will pass those out to the council. And while she's passing them out, the tulip tree leaf is part of the town's brand identity. It represents our relationship to the land, green spaces, and walking trails. Tillsonburg has made considerable effort in preserving our Carolinian forest, including planting tulip trees in Memorial Park and planting 150th commemorative tree near Sam Lamb Diamonds in the past this fall. Thank you to the outgoing council. Now we'd like to acknowledge Councillor Penny Esseltine and Mayor Stephen Molnar for their years of service. Councillor Esseltine was first elected in 2014 and has served 2 consecutive terms on council. She has been a dedicated part of many council committees and the achievements of this council throughout her terms. On behalf of the town, thank you for your dedication over the past 8 years on council. Thank you, Councillor Esseltine. Mayor Molnar was first elected to council in 2003 as a municipal councillor. The following election in 2006, Stephen ran for mayor and was successful. Following that, he had 2 consecutive terms as mayor from 2014 to 2022. As councillor mayor, he has been instrumental in many projects and initiatives in Tillsonburg. He was a big proponent of the Tillsonburg branding and branding policy development, as well as supportive development of the community strategic plan. He was an advocate and instrumental in the development of the Van Norman Innovation Park, the J.L. Scott McLean Outdoor Recreation Pad, and supporting people care that may bring 160 new long-term care beds to the town. He also should be commended for his leadership during the pandemic and bringing a vaccine clinic to the town during that time. On behalf of the town, I would like to thank Mr. Mayor Molnar, and I have 15 years, but Councillor Gavesi said 20 to 21. So Mr. Mayor, what is it 15 or 20 years?
15 is plus
21 years in total. Congratulations, Mayor Molnar. At this time, we would like to present a memento representing our appreciation from the town of Tillsonburg. This is an art piece that was first created by Jennifer Jackson, a local artist, in 2019. It represents Annandale House, which is a National Historic Site built in 1881 for E.D. Tilson, one of the founding fathers of Tillsonburg. The house itself is an excellent example of pattern book design, which had a major impact on domestic architecture in Canada, and Annandale House provides a personal link to the late Victorian age, when industrialization and radically changing society, and household art was often seen as an important symbol and status of taste. This art piece is a collage of the house and beautifully depicts the vintage of the time. First, I'll present this to Councillor Esseltine. And furthermore for Mayor Molnar. Thank you, Mayor Molnar.
Thank you, sir.
If Councillor Esseltine and Mayor Molnar have any words?
I'll just say thank you very much for the recognition. That's lovely. And I really do like the leaf. That's beautiful. And it's been wonderful working with everyone and meeting so many people and learning so much. And it's just been a wonderful experience. I just think it's time for me to go, but I'll look forward to seeing what you continue to do in the future. Thanks.
So they said at county council the other night, I'll be brief, and I lost half the room. They're used to me a little more, boisterous and passionate, and as a counselor sometime than being chairing meetings provide you. So I'm very comfortable with where we are right now. I'm very comfortable with this council. The council that has seen the leadership over the last 4 years, and I'm very comfortable with where council will take the next 4 years in this community. I want to congratulate Mayor-elect Obese. A long history between your families, and I respect that. And I wish you and your team all the best. You will have my complete trust and support. And if there's times when you feel that you need to call on some of the experiences or from the past, I say that publicly. I want the community to know that this is the first step forward to work together, because we've had a lot of challenges. We've had a lot of successes. We've experienced a lot of growth. But if Tillsonburg ever does lose that small town neighbor kind of aspect, then we're dealing with a lot larger issues than what we deal with here every other Monday night. That was one line. That was one line that's a cheap number. So I'd like to extend special thanks to our CAO, our leadership team, and all corporate team members who support and continue to support the community strategic plan and have accomplished so very much in these challenging times. A reminder that our corporate team and the residents and stakeholders of Tillsonburg are the true foundation of ensuring future opportunities are indeed realized. I'd like to reinforce that the next council, as I mentioned, does have my absolute full support. And again, if called upon, I will be available as appropriate. I encourage new members of council to be open, engaged, and share. Importantly, every 4 years, we're at doors more often. Take what you heard and bring it here and continue to be engaged, and use that most recent information to advance the collective benefits of all the stakeholders in our community. The timing is wonderful to do that, and I have faith in you all. As recent as today, we are reminded that COVID's not over. Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health, and in contact that I had today with my perhaps my final relationship with Southwest Public Health's Medical Officer of Health, and both reinforcing the need to respect our most vulnerable and advising us to wear masks in indoor settings. Now, tonight represents a stop along the way of my shared journey as a head of council. However, I'll never change my commitment to the people of Tillsonburg. I would again, as has been consistent over the last 2-3 years, thank all of our healthcare providers, our emergency service personnel, and essential workers, along with our entire corporate team, for your continued sacrifice to ensure we have sustainable hope and opportunity moving forward. As I mentioned at County Council the other day, while devoting so much personal time and energy, now over 21 years, to working in partnership to build a stronger Tillsonburg, so much of the benefits I have received is the opportunity to meet with and really get to know people. Whether it's elected ministers, local residents, or what I like going back to is grades, 5 students in civics classes. Any selfish aspect that I've been able to draw on, it is about the people. Apologize, but I don't. Because the job up here isn't really about bridges and roads and it's about people. Everything we do, we should be doing for people, our shared constituents. So in closing, I'd like to publicly offer my thanks to those who have supported me through the years and to those who have reached out to me personally over the past couple of weeks. From provincial ministers to current and future municipal developers to other mayors and regional partners. Your support in the past through partnership has helped advance our shared goals. And on behalf of our entire community, I thank you. And while recognizing all members of the outgoing council, because this was a team, most of you will be back. I'd like to, as my final actions, pay special attention to thanking Councillor, I'd say Penny now, Esseltine, for her passionate contributions to our community over the past 8 years. There will be a void left by Penny's absence due to her specific priorities and experiences, and I encourage her, as well as many others in the community, to remain engaged locally to ensure that knowledge and positivity remains a benefit to the town. Penny, your honest conviction has been appreciated, and as a resident, I say this, I encourage you to continue to serve this community where appropriate. And finally, if you're still up, because she took a look at the agenda and she knew she couldn't sit here. I'd like to thank my wife. It's been a journey we put on together. Excuse me, because you can make tough decisions sometimes. And when you talk about family, sometimes it's that much more personal. But I'd like to thank my wife, Colleen. She has sacrificed so much so I could do the things that were important to me and our shared community. She's been a sounding board, my true foundation, and unfortunately, sometimes held to unreasonable standards by some in the community because of who she was married to. She'll always have my back, as I will hers, and for love and support, I remain ultimately grateful. Again, to members of council, thank you. To the incoming members of council, you have my full support, and I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you. Oh. We may want to proceed with, and appropriately so, the mover of the motion to adjourn.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parker, that the council meeting of Monday, November 14th, 2022 be adjourned at 8:19 PM.
See, you're off by a minute again. We'll call this meeting adjourned, and I believe Councillor Gavesi, again, congratulations, and you'll be chairing, I understand, your first meeting on the 21st of November, and look forward to the celebration with the inauguration of your next council tomorrow evening. So congratulations again, and good night. No, don't, with camera.